In this tutorial, I'm going to go over some aspects of how the database works content-wise. It's a relational database where each of the types of information is related to other types. So, for example, we have sites that can have multiple plantings, and each planting will have a species, and a species is of a particular category of species. So let's see how that looks in the database in the tables. I'm going to start down at the bottom of that hierarchy and see what I've entered for categories. We have apples, pears, plums, and nuts at this point. So if I go into the apples, we can see that we have these species of apples already entered into the database, Cortland and Mitsu. And so that gives you an idea of how the user interface can be used to navigate this hierarchy of records or information. And it's logical. I mean, it's in terms of the relationships of plantings to sites. We might have a planting of apple trees and plum trees on the same site eventually, and that would be two plantings because I'm defining a planting as only having one species. And a planting happens on a particular date as well, as we will see when we look at how we're going to be entering the data. So let's use the navigational aid we saw in the first video to jump to plantings now. We don't have any plantings, so I would have to create one. And in this table you can create a planting in the same page as the list of plantings. You have to pick where the planting is going to be, the site, what species is going to be planted, how many trees are being planted on this particular date, and then is this a planned planting or has it already been planted? Okay, is the done. And then status would just be, at this point you could even leave it blank if it's just a planned planting. But you can put anything in the status. If you click on these little eyes, they'll give you more information about each field. I'm not sure I mentioned that in the first video, but that gives you extra information. Okay, so that's just basically a primer on how relational databases work. This is not the information that we're going to be entering at the beginning of our project. We're going to be entering people. So let's look at the specifics of the fields for people next. I'm going to go into one of my fictitious people that I created in our last video and continue to work with Jack Sprat. Or this might have been one of the videos that I didn't actually save. But anyway, the person table has information specific to that person. So when we get down to here to the address and the town and the state and zip and so on, this is that person's address, not necessarily the address of the site that that person is offering, if they are indeed offering a site. So that's important because we might send a mailing to Jack Sprat using this address. But Jack Sprat may have a site that he's involved with helping us obtain. Let's say if Jack Sprat is an official of the city of Lebanon. So if we go into the site information, we can enter Jack Spratt. I thought I had a field here for title of the person. I'm going to close that related record. I'm going to look at my company or organization. Okay, so the company or organization would have to include the title. So I had to remind myself with my own little extra information I bubble. So let's say this person is the city manager. We could put that information in here, and then it would be clear, but this could still be the address of Jack Spratt, not or the contact address for him in his office as a city manager. Okay, so then when we get into the site, now we're putting the address for the site. And so all this information is site specific. The same principle will be true for the other tables. All this information should be specific to Jack Spratt's, or in this case, the City of Lebanon's desire to adopt and take care of trees. And so again, these notes have to do with the adoption process. And we wouldn't use the notes for the person necessarily for the adoption process, so that wouldn't be the end of the world. But if you can keep things where they belong, it will make it simpler to find them later when we're navigating. Okay, I think that's enough for this second video. We have a basic idea of how we're going to be entering the data, what the addresses are, and yeah. Thanks for watching.